Alright, so now that you've bought all your gear and you've got it all connected, you got to start practicing. And I'm just going to go over in this section certain DJ techniques that I feel are necessary to the craft, to the trade, that you need to know. Mixing techniques, song selection, things of that nature. Now keep in mind, this is a very basic tutorial. I'm not going to go through things like setting up your equipment, because setting up your equipment honestly isn't that difficult to do, and most of the manuals that come with your products will explain to you probably in better detail than I could visually here, of how to set up your gear. It's really not hard to do. Once your gear is all set up, here's where the techniques come in. If you're just starting out, which a lot of you guys are, you need to start mastering certain techniques, whether it be on your vinyl or on your CD deck. There's a couple techniques in mixing that are very standard to the trade, some of which will take you a little while to master, and others which you can pick up relatively easily, relatively straightforward. So once you get your gear all set up, obviously you need some music to choose. So depending on whether you want to do weddings, parties, corporate events, if you're just a bedroom DJ, or if you want to do clubs, is going to basically determine what kind of music you want. A lot of music selection has to do with your own personal preference, but also a lot of it has to do with what venues you're playing. You know, if you're playing in a club and it's a hip-hop club, well, obviously you're going to need to have a very broad knowledge of hip-hop. You're going to need to have a large song selection, and you might have to play stuff that you don't necessarily like. On the other hand, you could be a house head, and you could be really familiar with house or trance or any of the electronic genres, and find out, well, hey, you know, this party or this event that I'm doing, well, you know, we're not going to be playing any of that stuff. So to begin with, it is very important that you have a very broad range of knowledge about music. That kind of stuff, a lot of you guys will have that going in, because a lot of you guys will be huge music fans going into this profession. If not, a lot of it you can learn along the way. The types of music that you're generally going to want depend on what you're going to be doing. So we'll say for instance, you're just a bedroom DJ. Well, if you're just going to be a bedroom DJ, the music that you choose can be anything that you prefer, anything that you want to listen to, your preference. If you want to get into things later on like beat matching and scratching, you're going to want to choose like non-rock songs. You want to choose like dance songs, like either hip-hop, techno, house, trance, or even like reggae. Something with like a solid, steady beat, so you can match the beats. And also to scratch, you're going to want music that's got like good parts to sample, to sample the scratches on. So anyway, so say you want to be a wedding DJ. Well, for wedding DJs have to have a very wide range of music, because even though you interact with your client a good deal, say if you're doing a wedding, to find out what they want and what they don't want, you're going to have a very wide range of people, and you never really quite know for sure what your requests are going to be. So you want to have 60s, you want to have 70s, you want to have the whole spectrum. You want to have wedding DJs should have a very broad range spectrum, anywhere from like say even like early swing music, Benny Goodman, Glenn Lewis, all those guys, In the Mood. You want anything from all the way back then all the way up to today. And obviously, you know, that's a lot of music and you can't have it all, but you want to get a broad range of that stuff. If you're doing clubs, depends on the type of club. Hip-hop, you don't want a lot of hip-hop. Mainstream, maybe get a little bit mainstream rock, some mainstream pop, and then you got like the classic rock songs, and then you've got the anthems like Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me, and AC/DC, You Shook Me All Night Long. You want a good variety of that. If you're doing an electronic type club, then you want a lot of house, breakbeat, trance, acid jazz, all kinds of genres. Basically, whatever you think would fit into that club's format. So now we've got the music and the types of varieties that you should have out of the way. We'll get into a little bit of mixing basics. One of the first skills that's very important to learn as a DJ, but might take you a while to get the hang of, is called beat matching. Beat matching is when you're taking one record or one CD and you're matching the beats of that record to the other record. If you fail to do this, which a lot of beginning DJs do, you're going to do what's called a train wreck, which is where the beats do not line up and it's like da-dum, 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 and it sounds really bad. Definitely don't want to do that, but you guys are not going to be perfect beat matching straight off the bat. It takes a lot of practice. Basically using the pitch sliders on your decks to match the pitches and the tempo of your song. The pitch doesn't necessarily have to match, but the beats do. It would sound better if the pitch was close to the pitch of the other song as well, and keys are important as well, the actual keys of the song. But that gets a lot more in depth, and we're not going to do a whole lot of that. So then later on you might decide you want to scratch. Well, obviously most DJs that scratch use hip-hop. I've heard the occasional DJ that will scratch other stuff, but predominantly scratch DJs scratch hip-hop. So scratching gets a lot more complicated. We won't get into that here, but it gives you an idea of the skills that you're going to want to learn depending on the type of DJ you want to be. If you want to be a mobile DJ that does weddings and corporate events and the like, you probably aren't going to need to learn how to scratch. If you want to learn how to scratch and you're doing that, that's fine, but most people aren't going to expect or even ask a wedding DJ to scratch, and most of those guys are old guys that a lot of them don't even know how to mix, let alone scratch anything. And that's just my personal opinion, but I find that a lot of people getting married are younger people, and a lot of younger people want younger DJs doing their weddings. So unfortunately, you're not going to get a whole lot of scratching out of those guys. But then again, if you know how to scratch, hey, that's great. And but they certainly don't expect it. Now, if you're in a hip-hop club and you're doing hip-hop, you're probably going to be expected to know some scratching. Now, universally, if it were up to me, every single DJ out there would know how to beat match, to match beats, because that is the basics, the essentials of mixing, is mixing the music, matching the beats. Now there are other ways to mix. You can do cut mixes. You can do slam mixes, basically, where when one song ends, you just slam right into the next one. Or you slam right in on the one beat of one song and slam right into the one beat of the next song. You can do that with a crossfader or any of the faders, basically. And then you've got the crossfader mix, where you take the one slider and you lower it, raise the next, which basically lowers the volume of the one song while you're raising it on the next, and it's a nice smooth transition. Kind of like if you drive a manual, if you drive a stick, basically here's your clutch and here's your gas. Well, these are your two faders. You basically do the whole seesaw effect, and you fade one out and the other one in, basically like that. And that's a standard mixing procedure. Like I said, just the basics in this tutorial. I've given you some ideas about the techniques that you're going to need to learn. Just introducing you to the whole DJ world here. Not going to get really in depth with learning the actual, mixing skills, but I am informing you about them all and giving you an idea of what you need to do to get started.